Hello, everyone.
Hi, guys.
Ender,
Hello.
Starlette, chat. How's everybody doing? That good.
Oh,
Awesome.
crazy echo on here. Too many.
Crazy echoes. It Twitch volume up. I did that last
Yeah, I
time.
just had to fix
Yeah, I
it.
had to mute the site.
Yeah. Happy Friday, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Starjump Station episode 2. This is our second episode, so we're doing the following Friday from the last. So already consistency is good. I'm proud of us. Proud of us already. That is an accomplishment. Hopefully, we'll be able to keep that pace with the occasional adjustment.
We're breaking new
Thanks.
records.
Yeah, thanks to everyone in chat for showing up. Looks like we got a lot of names in there. Nice to see everyone stopping by and helping, support us. Obviously, there's a lot of Star Citizen content creators out there. There's a lot of Star Citizen shows. There's a lot of discussion shows. Um, we're trying to start doing that now. So hopefully you're finding some enjoyment with this. I know we're having a lot of fun. We got a really cool show for you tonight, primarily focused on the MISC endeavor. You've probably seen a lot of the, stuff I've been putting out on the Twitter and other social channels. So hopefully that is something you're excited by. Before we get started, though, obviously we have a few little things to kind of go over. I know we wanted to do just a quick recognition to all of our community, all the people in the Starjump Discord. Obviously, we got a pretty lively community there. We have, we're in there daily. There's a lot of conversations going in there daily. So if you are not a member of the Starjump Discord here in the Twitch About area, there's a link to it, I believe. And if it doesn't work, blame Ender.
And you can also just go there
Yes.
where I just linked because I'm amazing. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
In addition, we just wanted to thank not only our community, the Starjump community and stuff, but just all the other fellow content creators that are out there that show support for us and what we're trying to do. And, it's always funny sometimes when you get with content creators and anything like that, because everyone's kind of looking out for their own product, their own, thing they're trying to do, and they're focused on that. So when another creator will step outside of that and help promote us and help support us, even just with words of encouragement, that's really cool. We try to do the same. We have a lot of things we're doing with other creators to help them out. So, obviously Starlette, Ender, if you have anyone to thank, please do. But I know I wanted to thank Joran and Soul Citizen, Griffin, Fast Card, all those people over at Soul Citizens, all the people at Yacht Club, Zero State, who've been all, just big supporters of help, retweeting things, liking things, helping support our show and mentioning it on their own channels. Ender, Starlette, I didn't know if you had anyone specific you wanted to call out.
Zero State for
Sure.
sure has been huge for me. Starlet, who do you got?
Actually, I want to do a bit of a shout out to Dorian Skyfire, who just before we start the episode, which is who runs an org called IOOT, which is an Endeavour org. So if anyone interested in joining an org for solely focused on Endeavours and the gameplay around it, sing out to Dorian.
This is a good episode for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's other people too. Obviously, his Divine Shadow, I know, is in chat. He's constantly, likes our comments and supports us when we're in other channels and talking about our
Absolutely.
stuff. Yeah. There's a lot of people, and then a lot of people in our own Starjump community, too many to mention, that are here all the time.
Yep.
So big thanks to them, Bingo and Reese, and just everyone. There's tons of people. We're going to start doing more proper kind of call offs on that. But what we wanted to do is just make sure that everyone out there, even if we didn't call your name, we appreciate all the support. Very humbled by it. And when you're trying to get something going like we are, and you're starting from scratch, that can be pretty hard to do. So. All the word spreading and stuff you do, we really, really appreciate it.
Huge.
Yeah. So one other thing we did want to talk about is that we have a discount code for Predator mounts. If you are interested in getting some mounts for your HOTAS or HOSAS setups or any of the other acronyms I'm sure you could come up with. Oh, His Divine Shadow gifting 5 Tier 1 subs. Thank you so
Whoa.
much, His Divine Shadow. Salute to you.
Generous Shadow.
Yes. Thank you very, very much. Again, kicking ass with our community. But we do have a Predator mount code. We will put that in the description of the VOD for this, and Ender just posted it in chat. Thank you so much, Ender. But Triple over there at Predator Mounts is a really awesome dude, has been really, really supportive, and I talk to him pretty regularly. We may even be doing some tie-in stuff with him and working on some projects. So more on that in the future. I know he's got some really big, exciting announcements that are coming up. So he's had some big things happen on the Predator mount side of things. So expect some big announcements there. And he's just a really cool, down-to-earth person and someone we, again, want to be associated with because
Great.
we're trying to associate ourselves with cool people in the community that have the same, mindset on this stuff.
Absolutely. Can I give one more shout
Yeah,
out?
please.
Shout out to Starlette's coffee cup. That looked awesome. What is that?
What coffee cup is that?
Coffee cup. It looks awesome.
Okay.
It does look kind of cool.
It's coffee cup.
It just really looks cool. I'm sorry, but
I have the ultimate coffee cup right here. Drake.
Drake. Oh no, not Drake.
It's cracked and is leaking, of course, but it's still my favorite coffee.
duct tape
goes with the spacesuit race.
Yes. So we're going to get into our main topic here in just a moment. Real quick, let's get an update on Hanger Link, which is the really cool project Starlette is working on, and also I am involved in creating some visuals that are not quite ready. But Starlette's been doing a ton of work on that already. Starlette, what's the latest update on Hanger Link?
Sure, just a super quick update. The last episode we showed some new work on the CCU chain calculator and how that was all coming together. That's available online now at https://hanger.link, HENGAR. So yeah, check it out and give us any feedback in the Discord, and we'll change it to whatever needs to be changed to. So all feedback is appreciated.
Yes, and we're going to have probably more. Obviously, we're going to have a Hanger Link and CCU chain focused episode going right into IAE, probably a few days before the start of IAE or whatever works out. I think IAE starts on a Friday, actually, so maybe we'll have it that Friday night, and that will be a kind of perfect timing for that. So stay tuned for that, because I think the CCU chaining with IAE coming up and the opportunities to get stuff at a steal will be pretty exciting to everyone. So let's switch over. Obviously, the big announcement for today was IAE 2951 with start date of November 19th, running through, I forget what it runs through, but it's usually like 7 or 8 days worth of IAE generally, but starts on the 19th. They released a trailer for it, so we're gonna figure we play that now, and then we just sort of get reactions and then look at the schedule before moving into our main topic. So let's start up the trailer. I thought it was a really cool trailer, but we'll discuss once it's over.
November 19th.
Gotcha.
Just when you thought it was safe to go back to Microtech. Oh, not good, not good!
Obviously, it looks like we're on Microtech again this year.
Here we go!
Lawless. Thank you.
Thanks, Lawless.
All right, that's the trailer. We'll let that run a minute. We've got it muted. Yeah, thanks, Lawless. Gifting 5 Tier 1 subs. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We're watching a lot of his YouTube clips.
Yes.
Fun to watch.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, if you enjoy good content on a regular basis, go check out Lawless Baron on YouTube. He's got a great YouTube channel. It's actually one that I'm subscribed to and regularly watch the content. He's been specifically covering a lot of stuff lately that I personally have an interest in. So certain ships,
Yep.
certain gameplay stuff, and stuff like that. So go give Lawless a a follow. Lawless, if you have the link to your YouTube channel, feel free to post that in chat if it allows you. If not, just shoot me one of us a Discord message or whatever, and we'll get it on there. So, what did you all think, Ender, Starlet? What did you think of the IAE trailer this year?
Really excited to see the Redeemer actually flying and moving. It's nice to see the Ion, but I'm still really excited to hopefully very soon see the Inferno fly.
Yeah, the Ares. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was cool
See
seeing
it
it.
in action.
Yeah, I thought it was
Yeah.
particularly interesting. They show the Ion right there hitting that Idris so hard. There's been a lot of debate back and forth. Is it a capital killer or is it a component killer? Probably more likely and stuff. So it's kind of interesting to see it land such a big hit on that Idris. Starlet, what'd you think of the trailer? Anything pop out to you specifically?
No, I think it's kind of, I don't know. Like I liked the previous year's Jack McCleary stuff. It was a bit more comedic. I missed the comedy in this one, but it's still exciting. I like IAE and super looking forward to Aegis Day in particular.
Yeah. Let's bring up the schedule. They released a schedule. All right, poster right there. IAE 2951 schedule. Obviously, day one, we're kicking it off with Anvil Aerospace. There has been some leaks lately of kind of the 3 ships that are going to be on sale. What I've found, though, that you can generally tell without giving any leaks away on the show here is that generally with IAE, you can look at day 1 and day 9, the last manufacturer day, and that will give you a good idea of at least 2 of the manufacturers that have ships coming out. Generally, day 1 and the last day are days with manufacturers that have new ships coming out. So probably Anvil, probably MISC. I think that's probably a pretty safe bet. Yeah, Starlet, anything on the schedule stick out? I mean, obviously it's the pretty
Just
standard
day
schedule.
3.
Yeah, day 3,
As
Aegis.
Elsie mentioned, I plan to get another Javelin, I guess.
Another Javelin. Wow. So what will that put you up to?
No comment.
No comment. Okay. I can tell you what I'm going to do, though. When the verse is fully live and Starlet's Javelin is cruising the verse, my ship and whatever that ship that will be cruising nestled alongside her like a lamprey on a whale and just kind of just staying within her, her IR signal and ghosting myself. So
The protective bubble of the Javelin. I think she might be up to. I'm only guessing 1 for every day of the year.
Okay.
Not quite.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, IAE obviously November 19th seems to be pretty cool. Again, just getting. It's always kind of an exciting year for Star Citizen because there's so much happening. There's Citizen Con, obviously we had this year. You have things like the Ship Showdown, which kind of got everyone, re-energized. You usually have the quarter 3 patch, which has a ton of content. As we know, the 3.15 patch has a ton of content. So that's always big. And then ultimately culminating into IAE, which includes a free fly. So it's a good time to get your friends in the game and exercise those referral codes. So expect referral mania to happen once again, where everyone attaches that damn code to everything they say. But yeah, so it's a cool time. Always look forward to it. All right, so one thing before we go into the main topic that I did want to bring up is if you have anything specific you want to, like a question you want to bring up for us to talk about on the topic we're discussing, just put question in brackets and Ender will try to pull those.
Or DM them to me.
Or DM directly to Ender. Again, we we're going to try to stay on topic because we do have a ton of stuff to cover. The Endeavor is a pretty, it's a topic laden ship, so it's there's a lot to get through, and we want to be careful, and how much we get on tangents and stuff. It's totally fine to do that, but if you have a question, let's try to focus it on what we're talking about at that moment in time.
Bingo says 1 javelin for each server. Bingo, they're shards, and there's only going to be 1 shard, right? There's going to be 1 universe. I'm sure of it, right?
Well, the question then, Starlette, is if you have a javelin on one server or shard and there's people on it and you log out, I'm guessing the matchmaking system then will pull you into that same shard because you have a javelin already spawned with people on it.
I'd say so. That would make sense.
Instead of you getting pulled into a new shard, spawning a new javelin.
If it did pull you into a new shard, I'm sure you'd have to claim your ship, which would be problematic, right? Especially if it's been upgraded heavily.
Yeah.
And equipped heavily. So
yeah. I see a lot of craziness with the replication layer and duplicates and weird things happening there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll address that too. And Mr. Arrow Capital, are we going to discuss the Argo ship? So we're going to avoid a lot of the leak stuff at the moment. It's not that we have some ethical reason why we're avoiding discussing the leaks. I don't even know if that, the Argo ship is what I would call a leak at this point. Everyone and their mom knows about it. But we are going to try to stay on topic with this one. And it makes sense to discuss those ships when we have more info on them anyways. We just don't know enough yet other than the leaks. IAE is coming up pretty soon, and we'll definitely cover those once we have the information and the concept information. So expect an episode during IAE where we do cover that today. So, all right, are we ready to begin our main topic? Is everyone excited to talk about the Endeavor?
Yes.
Okay.
Very excited. It's such a cool ship.
All right. Well, before we dive too much into it, let's just get the facts of the ship out of the way. You got to remember too that there's a lot of people, especially in the last 6 months, in my opinion, that have come into Star Citizen from other games, Elite, have come into Star Citizen, and you'd be surprised at how many people don't know about every ship and every game system that is being planned. I was just telling Ender and Starlette the other day that I was in a chat channel where we were having a discussion about the Endeavor, and someone chimed in and was asking, what is this ship? They didn't know anything about the Endeavor, and that's totally understandable with new people coming in, especially when you're talking about ships like the Endeavor that were originally concepted years and years ago, and there hasn't been really any updates on them. So let's get some facts out of the way to kind of set the stage, and then we'll launch into the Endeavor proper. And again, don't forget, if you have questions or comments, bracket those or send them directly to Ender, and Ender will manage that. All right, so the Endeavor. It's going to come with 1 media. This is, by the way, how it's currently spec'd on the technical sheets. Obviously, all this is subject to change, and big time caveat. As a matter of fact, I should have a graphic super that's popped up over the entire episode. All this is speculative. CIG will be, I'm sure, reconcepting this ship heavily. A lot of things will change, probably design, probably a lot of function, probably a lot of module interaction.
Totally.
Yeah, component stuff, price. I mean, everything on this ship is going to change, but what we're discussing is what we know now. Okay.
So for people who aren't unaware of what the Endeavor is, should we just
let's start with a general.
It's a capital-sized modular science and research ship, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Take it away on the components.
Exactly. And the big key thing with this ship, obviously, like I said, is its modularity. That's key to this ship. So let's jump back to the fact sheet real quick. So it has 1 medium radar, 4 medium computers, 1 large power plant, 4 large coolers, and 2 large shield generators. Again, all subject to change, of course. we're looking at 2 large fuel intakes, 2 large fuel tanks, 1 capital quantum drive, 1 capital jump module, and 1 capital quantum tank, quantum fuel tank. And then just some ancillary thruster information. Again, while thrusters aren't really something that we focus much on now, I know in the future we're supposed to be able to do some customizing and changing to the thrusters and like their power output and stuff. So it's got 9 main thrusters, 4 retro thrusters, and 18 maneuvering thrusters. That's a lot of maneuvering thrusters.
Yeah, it's a bit misleading though, because of course the front of the ship is its own ship anyway. So
Yes.
it's kind of, there's a double up there.
Exactly. So what we're seeing here is the Endeavour base. So this includes 3 primary ship sections. This is the entire ship joined together. This front area here is known as the Explorer cab. This is the ship that you'll go down to surface level and stuff with it. It does not contain a quantum drive, though, this ship. You have to be connected to the superstructure and the engine section to have quantum. But that's your Explorer cab, and then it connects to the workshop, which is the large modular superstructure, as well as the drive section, which is where the primary engines and thrusters, and I'm guessing there'll be a secondary engineering room back there. One interesting thing about this ship that I was thinking about in regards to that is you're probably going to have 2 engineering areas, one for the Explorer and then one for the drive section, which will be kind of interesting.
Lawless, yeah. These graphics are the same ones that are going to be used in Fleet Viewer, so
Yes.
it's going to look amazing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
For our Fleet Viewer project, obviously we have we're pulling those assets from my original cinematics as well as new ships that we're building out. That project's still very much being worked on daily by me, believe me, the amount of hours. All the Endeavors and their modules, we got something kind of special planned for Fleet Viewer with that, but those are all finished and you're going to see a lot of those in the episode. Let me go over a quick what is it with the MISC Endeavour as well. This is all high level, top level stuff. The MISC Endeavour is a research vessel that is a fully modular space platform designed to be adapted for a variety of scientific and medical tasks. Initially developed as a floating laboratory, the MISC Endeavour can be outfitted for everything from spatial telescope to a hospital to component overclocking to agriculture. The amount of gameplay loops this ship can do is pretty astounding. So there is another slightly longer description. And thanks for the Star Citizen Wiki for where we pulled some of this information, as well as Star Citizen jump points, Q&As from CIG, and some of their original design notes on the ship. I'll read through this one other part here. Oops, stand by. One other part says, the Endeavour is MISC's most prestigious ship, a dedicated research platform capable of carrying a dozen different space science packages, running the gamut from advanced long-range scanners for jump point identification to additional shielding for near-stellar coronal research. Big note on that, the Endeavour is supposed to be the ship that can get the closest to the stars, actually. That's something that apparently has been said before. Externally, the Endeavour is dotted with sensor hardpoints. Internally, the main compartment is centered on a large research laboratory which can be configured for use by a wide range of scientific disciplines. The Endeavour's main compartment is modular. That is the workshop area you're seeing there. And it allows for alternate configurations, such as the Hope-class floating hospital, which we're going to get into in just a moment. So again, the Endeavour is a really interesting ship because over all other ships, it has the most targeted gameplay loops. You can take a ship like I'm just going to say like the Drake Kraken, right? Which a lot of people say, and myself included, that it really lends itself to emergent gameplay. You could run an industrial fleet off of there. You can run a combat fleet. You could use it for cargo hauling, all that stuff. But it's more stuff you're kind of like bending the ship to do. And that does apply to a lot of ships. But the Endeavour has that same flexibility, but for very targeted gameplay loops, which we're going to get into in a minute. But let's start with you, Starlette. because I think you've been with the game longer than myself and Ender. What's your thoughts, your kind of top level thoughts on the Endeavor as a ship before we get into kind of the pre-built builds that CIG sells, as well as the individual modules? What is your kind of thoughts on the Endeavor overall?
Gosh. Well, right now it's one of a kind. So, I mean, we've got the little science ship, the Reliant N, is it?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a medium ship. We don't have a large
Right.
ship. We've only got this giant capital that does absolutely everything,
Yeah.
including medical. So there's like 25% of the game is locked away behind this ship at the moment, if not more than 25%. You've got all
Mm-hmm.
your trade stuff, all your research tree kind of stuff. It's quite an important ship. It won't be the only ship that can do all these things. Eventually, they'll bring out others, but
Yeah.
right now it's the main one, and they may never bring out one that's quite as fully featured as this.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting and very, very cheap right now too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have credit, you can get you can get a $10 credit CCU from the Starfarer Gemini to the Endeavour and sort of lock that price in.
Yeah. This is a ship that will definitely go up in price, and we're going to cover that
Absolutely.
towards the end of the show in regards to, is this ship worth buying? But Ender, your thoughts on the Endeavor? Just
I'm gonna
top
give.
level stuff.
Yeah, I'll give what I used to think and what I have more recently begun to think. I used to think that it was okay. It's a good
Mm-hmm.
ship, but I wasn't interested in the scientific gameplay. I wasn't interested in the medical gameplay because I wasn't sure what they were going to happen. Currently, at the time that we started, it wasn't a lot. Just fix yourself and then wake up.
Yeah.
But it looks like the medical is going to get a lot to do, and I'm pretty excited about that. And I'll be honest, I've been getting more and more excited for medical and scientific gameplay in the last month and a half to 2 months.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for this. This is going to be a really, really great ship to have if that's your interest. It's almost the whole E for science and medical gameplay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's one interesting thing about it for me is that it how we still don't have a lot of information on um, how liberal they're going to be with what can plug in where. There is a grid system, and we'll kind of go over what that is in relation to the module sizes that fit on the Endeavor. But with this thing going through a massive redesign, one thing I'm hoping is that they give even more flexibility than what was originally planned. And with that, it allows you to hopefully really customize this to be any ship you want it to be. I know it is very science medical focused at this point, but there's no reason, for example, why you couldn't affix cargo modules to this ship. Or, imagine if there were module sections there that resembled the Hull series, the spindles that went out that could hold boxes and stuff. Again, or maybe big point defense pallet, platforms that were modules that you could set up in this thing as the ultimate flying Spectre gunship that just hovers above a planet raining down. So I think there's a lot of places they could go with it. I'm hoping that that the customability of it expands beyond what's even been sold at this point. So I will say this ship is one of the first ones that interested me in the game when I was first getting into Star Citizen. And by the way, thank you everyone for the follows up your shaft. I like the name. Just followed. Nice to see you, and everyone else who has followed here in the last little bit. Again, all that support's great. So it's I think it was the Olympic class, the one with the big agricultural farms on it, was like a piece of concept art I saw on Robert Space Industries website, and I remember it immediately grabbed me. I was like, "Wow, this is whatever this ship is. I want it." And while I didn't, through some research, I learned that it's still a very early concept. It's probably going to be still a ways out. It was something that grabbed me and pulled me into Star Citizen, and that is one of the reasons why I think CIG should continue to pay attention to specific ships getting or going into development. We know the BMM is going into development or is already in development. We've seen concept of that at CitizenCon, is in active production right now. But there's a short list of ships, the BMM, the Polaris, I would even put the Apollos in that list now with medical getting so popular. I'm hearing people talk about the Apollo a lot, the Endeavor, the Krakens, and all that stuff. Those ships, even when people don't own them, they see them or even the concept art, and it almost inspires them to get in the game. For example, let's take a Javelin, for example. I will probably never own a Javelin, but I love the idea of one day flying around and coming up on one. You know what I mean? That's patrolling a system or something. I think that's really cool. So anyways, Endeavor, really cool ship. What we're going to do now is we're going to move into the preset packages. So the Endeavor is sold in a few different ways by CIG. And Starlette, Ender, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think they sell 4 pre-built setups. That's what I could find information on. And then obviously the modules are sold individually. There's some argument obviously for not buying the modules with real money and buying that stuff in game because they are relatively cheap, so that real money to credit ratio probably is not really worth it. But either way, we will get in. His Divine Shadow bought something with some bits. I missed it. Ender, did you say?
He was just saying need this.
Oh, need this ship. Okay, sorry, I lost it in the scroll. Thank you. But they have 4 primary presets. Okay, so the first one we're going to go into that we're going to talk about is the Hope class. You're seeing that right now. The Hope class comes with 2 modules. The modules that it comes with are the medical bay and the landing bay. Its role is fleet and troop support, and its price is it's for a pledge price, I think, of $450 for the Hope model. I don't know if they sell these pre-builts anymore during do you know, Starlette, or do they just sell the Endeavor base?
Just mentioned that they don't do the pre-built anymore,
They don't,
but they do the base and they do
do.
the master set still.
Okay. Gotcha. So the Hope set was something you could get at one time. It's possible with medical gameplay coming online, I could see them in the future reselling the Hope class again. Or even I saw someone mention in a chat channel, maybe they'd sell some sort of medical ship package or something.
They still sell the modules as well separately, so there's no problem to put something together.
Right. So obviously, this comes with the medical bay, which is the full hospital support. You see that there on the back, connection points, the white and red building, and then it has the underslung landing bay, which is probably the module that has the most kind of discussion around it, and we'll get into why that is a little bit later. But that is your Hope class. Really cool. There is also. Go ahead, start.
Can I say something about this? I mean, this is awesome artwork. You've done such a good job on this. I just want to point out, though, again, reiterate that this whole ship might be completely reconcepted.
Totally.
It might not look like this in game, but from the concept art we have, from the information we have, this is a gorgeous representation of that.
Yes, and that's a great call out, Starlet. All the ships I build are built to the concept art or whatever CIG has last put out. I don't make any changes based off assumptions when I'm doing these ships. For example, when I was working on the Drake cinematic, the Genesis Starliner was in it, and everyone kept saying, hey, they're going to change the engines and this and that and this and that. And I built a Starliner that I updated on what I think they'll do with the Starliner in terms of the engine layout and stuff. And it looks really cool, but it's not the concept art. And as I've said in the past when doing talks on, Griffin, I just see Griffin hosted. Appreciate it. Thank you, Griffin. But when I do these, I was originally inspired to do the cinematic work by the CIG concept art, Paul Jones and his entire concept department, John Crew and all those guys as well. A lot of that early concept work really inspired me, which is why I did the cinematics. So I try to honor that by all the ships I'm doing, sticking to, the concept art. So, hello, see Griffin Gaming RPG in the chat. Griffin, hello, salute to you. Griffin was just saying on Soul Citizens the other day how they are going to be doing an upcoming industrial spotlight episode on the Endeavor. Really cool. Obviously, check out their stuff. His Divine Shadow just gifted a tier 1 sub to Griffin. Thank you so much, His Divine Shadow, always supporting Starjump. We appreciate it. So yeah, that's the Hope class. Let's go to the next pre-built, and that is going to be the Olympic class. This is kind of a unique one, and this is the one that I originally saw in the concept art. It is a science role ship, obviously. It comes with two essential this is not science. This is agriculture as its role. Sorry about that. And it comes with 2 modules. They're the same module, though. It comes with 2 biodome modules. The biodome comes with 2 biodomes. Obviously, the Olympic has 4, so it's 2 times 2. This will be a ship. I think they originally priced it at $500. I can't wait to see this thing flying through the verse. We also haven't heard much on things like agriculture and stuff. I personally hope we do hear some interesting stuff on that. Especially in relation to medical gameplay. I would love to be able to do agriculture in order to farm up medicinal stuff that can make either medical medicines and stuff, or injections that are almost like buffs, or even really amazing healing stuff. You know what I mean? It'd be cool to see that. And we're going to get into those
Can you run us through so this has got 2 modules,
yeah,
each
2
taking
modules.
2 slots so there's 4 of 6 gone.
Yep.
What other modules can fit alongside those biodomes?
As of now, none, because we don't. Well, technically, you could still fit a small module that connects to the middle connection point, right? So you could maybe do the fuel pod or the crew module. Now, in this Olympic class, they don't have that labeled out, but
Right.
I have to look at the modules again. So the biodome is a 2x1. So the ship is essentially divided into 3 gridded areas, a left and right slot on each one of those gridded areas. So because the biodome is 2x1, it's both sides, one connection point. So you could technically fit another module on here if the module was to fit, just dimensions and doesn't have any sort of interference. Again, we don't totally know what limitations will be there with that. One of the primary things I thought could be a limiting factor, and I expect them to come out with a module for this, another Endeavor module, which will be essentially more power, because I'm wondering if there's a limitation on how much power, how many modules you can have connected based on how much power you're able to generate and power those. So I don't know.
Right. Well, it does have capital class power plant, so
true, yeah.
Hopefully that's relatively grunty.
Yeah. Griffin Gaming gifting 3 tier 1 subs. Thank you so much, Griffin. Appreciate that. Salute to you. And really appreciate you stopping by. So
how does that work for the Hope that we just went past? So the hospital takes 2 slots.
Yeah.
The hangar takes 2 slots.
So the hospital actually is a little different. So the hospital, or what's known as the medical bay, is actually a 2x2 slot. So the biodomes are 2x1, so 2 next to each other on one grid. The hospital is actually 2, so both sides, but two grid slots. And you can kind of see there on this hospital module, there's the 4 areas that stick out from that. Those areas have full medical beds and stuff, and we're going to show some concept art later that shows cutaways of those modules, so you can really kind of see, what internally you're getting there. But yeah, again, technically, you still have room to connect a module, but the CIG's airlock connection points for the Endeavor don't seem to always line up with the modules as they're currently concepted. So that's the big thing I see them reconcepting. Let's go to the next pre-built. So we went through the Hope, which is medical focus. We went through the Olympic, which is agricultural focus. The next one is the Discovery class. which is, let me switch over there. Discovery class is a science-focused vessel. It actually comes with 3 modules. It sold for $425 originally. It comes with 3 modules: the service and crew module, general research, and general science. Now, the funny thing is on this render here, I have the general science and the general research modules connected. But when you connect those, you now cannot connect the service and crew module. So either they're going to have to vastly redesign the science and research modules to be smaller than they currently look in concept art, or they're going to have a problem, or again, the ship where you have to be redesigned a little bit. But currently, with its connection points and the rough size of the modules, again, I say rough because we're pulling this from concept art. It's hard to know if we're exact down to the meter. We're definitely probably not. But right now, it does look like it would be challenging to get that service and crew module attached. But that gives you an idea, though, of what the Discovery class could look like. I mean, one interesting thing about the Endeavor, and I'll switch through here, with the Discovery class, the Olympic class, and the Hope class, and more that we're going to show, the silhouette of this ship is changing a lot, which I think is really cool. You're really going to come up on some
That's
Endeavors,
cool,
I think,
yeah.
in the future that look wildly different. So obviously, we have the Hope, we have the Discovery, we have the Olympic, and then finally, CIG has another pre-built setup, which is called the Master Set, which you can still buy, usually with IE and stuff. You can buy the Master or just the base set, which has no modules. The Master Set, though, will get you the ship and all the modules. Okay, so you're going to get the ship, the Explorer cab with the workshop and the drive. You're going to get the biodome, the fuel pod, the research module, the general science module, the landing bay, medical bay, service module, super collider, and the telescope. That's a lot of modules.
So the ones that weren't in the pre-builts are the super collider and the telescope, right?
Correct. Yeah. So the super collider and the telescope are both listed as kind of big primary modules that will work with the Endeavor. There are no pre-builts around those, but there's some interesting discussion around what those are going to be able to do. So I can actually switch over now to kind of show the super collider. So this is the super collider here. The super collider is actually I think it is the biggest module. Let me look at my.
Just a note for what's going on in chat. That the master set now has 2 sets of biodomes. The older master set, which is slightly cheaper, I think it's $50 cheaper, maybe. That only had 1 biodome.
Oh, so they've added a second one to the master set?
They increased the price to $1,000 and they added a second biodome. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. I mean,
which makes it LTI as well, because everything over $1,000 on the current policy is LTI. Yeah.
Gotcha. So the master set is now an LTI $1,000 ship, and I'm guessing non. So is the master set? Does it come in as a full package, or do you get the ship and then in modules as separate pledges?
It's a single package with the ship listed and all the modules listed in the extras.
Gotcha. So once you get that master set, you're not going to be gifting that to anyone. It's going to be obviously a count.
Actually, you can gift anything that's equal to or below $1,000 US.
Gotcha. Okay.
Not including tax. Sorry. Tax is not included with the gift equation. So yes, you can. It's the highest price item you can gift.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's good to know. But yeah, as you see with the master set, I mean, you're really getting a lot for that $1,000. You're getting a lot of gameplay. You're getting a lot of future possibilities. I very much doubt all modules will come online at the same time. Maybe they will with the Endeavor in order to fulfill the master set, but that could easily see them releasing the ship with a few modules on maybe the most pertinent gameplay, maybe like the Hope class and stuff, and then start pushing out modules as they go. I don't know.
So the cool thing is all of those modules will have LTI, but we don't know how important LTI is, honestly. It may not be that important.
Yeah.
And also, we don't know how much the modules are in game for UEC versus how much they are for US dollars. So, we don't we can't really know the value of buying this upfront as a big set versus just buying the standalone hull, which obviously the hull is extremely good value right now at $350.
I'll switch it over to a full screen of the master set here, everyone, just so everyone can see the detail and specifically see the,
Joran.
Joran, thanks for stopping by. No one linked you the show in Yacht Club until now.
Sorry, my bad.
Sorry about that, Joran. We actually called you out at the beginning of the episode for all the support you've given Starjump, even from the very beginning when we were doing, the cinematics, before it was like a full thing. So really appreciate you. Again, just trying to recognize those people out there, those content creators that, content creators out there don't always like to kind of push other people's stuff, but there's definitely a group that out there that is really done a lot for us. So we really appreciate that. So thank you, Joan, for stopping by. We're just going over the MISC Endeavors pre-builts that were sold that included the Discovery class, the Olympic class. I'll actually just real quick, we'll do a quick recap on where we're at and all that stuff. So we went over the Hope class here, the medical pre-built variant. We went over the Olympic class, which is the agricultural focused Endeavor preset. We then went over the Discovery class, which is the science based preset. And then we started talking about the last kind of package at CIG actually still sells during IAE, which is the master set, which is what you're seeing here in all of its modules. And then real quick, just for any of you all that were looking at it, I'll switch back to the full screen. This is the master set as it's currently concepted. Obviously, throw in an extra biodome in there because now there's two, but you're getting the landing base, super collider, telescope, all those modules. So I'll click over here. So two other main modules that they're not pre-built around them, which surprised me, but I'll go ahead and show them on the Endeavor because again, they really do kind of change the silhouette of the ship, and that's one interesting thing about it. This here is a super collider. Attached to the Endeavor, it is one of the bigger modules. It is, I think it's a 2x2 on the grid, but when you position it on the ship, it really almost is a 2x3. You could probably squeeze another module in there. Again, I am speculating on the sizes of some of these modules based on concept art, so some of it's probably wrong. This is a speculative episode. Don't take any of this to the bank, obviously. But the Super Collider is one of the largest modules in terms of size, and I think is going to be used to overclock components and do stuff like that. So I could see the Super Collider being something really cool for race teams or even like combat groups who want to overcharge, like supercharge and overclock some of their combat components. It really could be for a lot of things. Dorian says, is the Super Collider build shown including a research pod? So no, the Super Collider, as I've seen it in concept art, contains essentially the Super Collider ring, a front section, and then a rear section. The rear section you're seeing here are those kind of big module components. Not sure what those are. And then right in front of the Super Collider ring, you can see these smaller kind of wedge-shaped components. Again, that's how it's shown in the concept art. That obviously could change, but that is currently how it's visualized. So.
Murder for Hire fleet picks. We won't be able to make IAE, unfortunately, this year, but probably shortly after, actually early in the next year, I would say I'd be very confident that our fleet picks will be out by then.
Yeah, we are really trying to push on it. A lot of the lag is on me. I am pushing through ships every day, though. And you got to remember,
so much work involved.
Yeah, some ships we want to do in kind of a special way, and one of those is going to be the Endeavor. I'm really aiming to have all the ships to Starlette by end of year, but it could be like January. But I am really pushing on it hard. I mean, I want it out more than anybody, to be totally honest with you. I want to see people's fleet picks start populating and annoying people using our assets.
Yeah.
So we are pushing on it. So the other really cool module that I think has a really big silhouette changing aspect to it is the telescope, which you're seeing here. It has a fold down, fold up kind of ability and can do scanning. It's supposed to be able to search for jump points, etc., etc. I think this one here also
Any
has the general science thing attached to it.
super shiny.
Yeah, so that is the, and all these modules here that I modeled out, I modeled them as close as I could to concept art. Again, some stuff doesn't make sense. You might look at it and go, oh, that's never going to work, and they may need to change that. That may very well be the case, but it also means CIG needs to change it because I just really pulled from the concept art. So with that being said, that's kind of the pre-builts. Again, you have the base endeavor, which we went over down here. Let me switch to that right now. Here's your base endeavor. You can still buy that during IAE, or you can buy that master set. Okay, when you buy the
Notice
base,
that Shadow said, oh, good, he's got his EMS at the right time with the 2 sets of biodomes. But because this is $1,000, the master set is $1,000 package in quotes. You can buy it with credit. So if you have the old
True.
one with only one biodome, just melt it, get the new one.
Yeah,
You don't have to war bond it.
yeah, and remember with even the base endeavor, I've actually seen a few people say this, like they go, well, if I get the base endeavor, am I just getting the Explorer cab? No, you're getting the Explorer cab, the workshop, and the drive setup. It's all considered one ship. Yes, the Explorer cab can detach from the endeavor, but remember the Explorer cab, one key thing to point out with that, unless CIG changes it, is it does not have a quantum drive. So you're not going to be flying all over the place. The main reason they can detach is so that you can leave the workshop with all the sensitive modules up in orbit, and you can take the Explorer cab down to, say, a hostile planet surface if you had to pick something up or what have you.
So it has 500 SCU by itself, but it can't jump.
Does it have 500 SCU? Is that how much SCU it has?
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. So the 2 you're going to be able to buy at IAE if you're interested in the Endeavor, and pledging for that is the base Endeavor that you're seeing here, as well as the master set. Okay.
Yeah. So, and just to point out, I mean, you can with credit only, not with new money. You can buy a $10 CCU to just stick in your hangar, and it'll lock the price in. So that if you ever do want to build a standalone Endeavor, you can do so at the current price anytime in the future.
Yep. Yeah. And quick note to everyone just joining us. I see our chat's filling up more and more, which is really exciting to see. Thank you, everyone. I see Soul Citizens has hosted us. That's really appreciated. Everyone coming in, thank you for the follows. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to follow Ender on his channel at Starjump_Ender. If you have questions or comments,
Thanks, John.
put those in brackets in chat. Ender is kind of managing chat tonight. Thank you so much, Ender, for doing that. Ender is handling all that, and we'll try to get your question answered. Try to keep it on specifically what we're talking about. So if we're talking, Endeavor tonight, it might not be a good night for Crucible questions. We will have a Crucible episode, I promise, at some point. But let's try to keep it on topic. The next thing we're going to go into, actually, real quick, anything before we move on into this individual modules. Ender, Starlette, did you have anything you wanted to add before we start kind of getting down to nitty gritty of the modules and what they do?
Sure, the Crucible.
Of course, the Crucible. Let's diverge immediately.
Just for that $10 CCU thing, you can do the same thing with the Crucible, which will go up. That's all. Okay, on.
Yeah. I did see one question come in. Murder says, do you have any internal animations for Endeavor domes? Murder, I'm assuming you're meaning the internals of the actual domes, like the garden area, the agriculture area. Yes, I do have all that built. I don't think I have anything that displays the internals for this episode, but that may be something I can get up on a post YouTube video. If you are on our YouTube channel, that's something I can do. But yes, I have the modules completely detailed on the inside with walkways and doorways and all the agricultural plants and stuff like that.
And is that's their specifications? This is curiosity for me. Is that CIG specifications, or is that rough estimate for
For
those particular internals?
It's an estimate. We have concept art which will show. As a matter of fact, before we go into these internals, let's go to some of the concept art here before we get into nitty gritty and just kind of look. This is some of the concept art I just gathered from CIG. Originally, thought it was always good to show that because it shows their original intent. Here, you're seeing various assemblies of the Endeavor. Exactly, Joran. All things subject to change. This is a highly speculative episode, everyone. But you're seeing
Uh-huh.
here a lot of shots of the ship separating. Here's the landing bay as well as the medical pod. Obviously that would be your Hope class Endeavor. Here's the super collider with both those front and rear modules that sit right behind the rotating ring that I brought up, Dorian. Here's a cutaway of the hospital module. You can see the beds. It's actually a pretty robust hospital. This is a full-on hospital ship. Some more diagrams of the Endeavor as it's currently spec'd out and currently designed. Here is that telescope array. Again, you can tell a lot of the concept art with the Endeavor up to this point is very loose. Here's an internal concept of the cockpit. This is something I can see highly getting redesigned. It looks very rough.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
The thing I
Super
love
collider.
I don't usually like the MISC aesthetic. I don't
Yeah,
like how it's curvy, but this one is different. It's got some straighter lines on the cab. I
yeah,
like it more.
yeah,
I hope they don't get rid of it.
I'm really split
Oh,
on here.
Nandia.
Here is the Olympic class, and you're going to see a cutaway of the biodome right here, Ender, showing the the garden areas kind of in there and what that's supposed to look like. So again, everyone, there's the concept art. We'll bring that up again. Here's our biodomes. Let's go through a quick detail on the biodome module. So the biodome module, its role is agriculture, and these are designed to support ongoing agricultural operations, adapting and growing foodstuffs. That's the descriptor. Its size is a 2x1. One Endeavor can support 2 of these modules, though. And it originally, I think this module sells for $100 is its pledge price for the biodome module.
So, real quick, Arrow actually brings up a really good question. He
Great.
said, "Can you talk about the point of the domes when you can just farm on a planet?"
Radiation?
Radiation, yeah. Well, and
it could be any number of things.
Here's one interesting thing I read, and it's a great question. I'm glad you grabbed that one, Ender. One thing I read about these biodomes is you're actually going to be able to control the internal atmosphere of them. So if it needs to be real hot, it can be hot. If it needs to be cold, cold, highly radiated, or maybe even certain chemicals popped in. So if there's only plant life that is supported on some crazy moon on Nix in the Nix system, you could simulate that atmosphere in one of these biodomes. That's how I read the biodome. So I think one aspect of the biodome, there's obviously they're going to have the little farming simulator thing going on, but one thing I think that's going to be key to its gameplay, especially on its control console, will be its atmospheric gameplay for the biodome.
And I also kind of feel like it's possible that it's also going to be one of those situations. All right, I've got this particular plant. I'm wanting to put my home on that planet, and I'd like to farm this plant. Is it going to survive in that environment? And it's a way to test what will survive in the environment you're planning on living in as well.
And Jerome, oh, go ahead, Starlette.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think John mentioned microgravity and
Microgravity,
options there that they might bring in. Again, this is all speculation about how they might differentiate between space domes and one planet.
And Dorian brought up radiation, chemical mutagenics. There could be a lot, or even like micro ecosystems for specific types of plant life. Again, I think all that is key to these biodomes. Again, if you go to a certain type of planet that has a really hostile atmosphere, sure, that may be the best place to grow XYZ plant, but it's going to be hard for you to work in that environment and maybe sustain a habitat. As a matter of fact, I think the habitation modules that we're going to build surface side, depending on the planet, will have to get repaired more and fixed more if they're on a hostile planet. I'm sure CIG's got that kind of gameplay, thought about. Real quick, again, everyone, if I've missed you and you've followed recently, thank you so much for the follows. Obviously, we are trying to keep this conversation going, but do not think that we do not appreciate everyone following and supporting Starjump Station. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you for all the support, sincerely.
So
Ender, I
just
cut you off. Sorry.
no, it's okay. Answering a couple of questions. Standard deviation says, do you get 3 little droid robot workers with the biodomes? No, but I do believe you get a cloned version of Polyshore. So
Of course. Yeah, buddy.
you're going to get
Yeah.
that. And I think
No young people will get that.
Adam Baldwin. Nobody under like 30 is going to get that.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's see. There was another question. Can the Endeavor land? Can I land it near my homestead and have a controlled environment mobile farm? I believe the front end can land, but I don't know that the aft sections are
Correct.
going to be
That's,
landable.
yes,
It's
that is
just the
correct.
front half.
Yes.
So no, you will not be able to land it near your homestead for a
Yeah.
controlled environment.
I see Nadia Saint is in chat. Nadia, hello. Salute to you. I probably shouldn't announce this just yet because we're still kind of talking about it and figuring out exactly what it will be. But Starjump is looking into doing some sort of cool after-hours show specifically inspired by Nadia, where we will get up to all kinds of bad things. More on that at
Lots
a
of
later date.
ignorance. Yes. Lots of ignorance is going
Yeah.
to come out of that, I think.
Yeah.
Lots.
So
Adults
let's.
only, I'm sure.
Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
get banned off of Twitch in
Yes.
about an hour. So that's
It's
the
going to be Zoom only. No Twitch.
yes, it'll probably be a video call. Yeah. So that's the biodome module. Let's keep moving forward. The next module we're going to focus on is the fuel/cargo module seen here. I'll go ahead and read about the fuel and cargo module. Its role is fuel and cargo, obviously. The fuel pod takes up minimal amount of space to add additional fuel for long duration missions. I'm sure it can hold some cargo too, but essentially it's a range extender. It's a small module. It takes up one connection point. It's only $35 for the pledge price. It's a 2x1 size, so this is probably that module. If you've got 2 large modules on there and you've only got a little bit of room to squeeze, this is probably going to be the module that does that.
Be interesting to see if that fuel is required for the hangar, or if it's only for the main ship, or if it's for the Explorer as well. I'd be curious to see how they work that out.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a really good question. So yeah, that's the fuel cargo. That one's probably the most obvious on what it's going to do and what the implications of that are. Let's go ahead and move.
By the way, it says cargo, but you can't actually store cargo in there in bulk.
You can,
but you can store items and personal items and
gotcha.
Inventory in there. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to point out too about all these modules we're going to go through, if you didn't already know this, is that the modules actually, all of them that I could see, and I went through all of them very detailed, all of them have airlocks, so all of them are enterable. These aren't just like a fuel tank you're strapping on. This module here has an airlock to enter it. So there are interiors to all these modules. The next module we'll cover is the general science module. That's what you're seeing here. It is a rather large module according to the concept art I could find. Let me just go ahead. It is a 2x1, but that's got to be a mistake. It's got to be a 2x2 like the hospital model because it extends laterally and covers up one of the connection points on the Endeavor. So this is one that I think its module size may be a misprint. Don't quote me on that, but let me go ahead and read the descriptor of this. It is a science to income role module. I thought that was interesting. It's not listed as just science, but science to income. Here's the description. This is intended as a multi-use facility that can support a variety of active scientific pursuits like biological studies, microscopy, zero-gravity experiments, etc. It houses internal slots for precision scanners, sample and specimen collection, spectrometers, chemical analyzers. It is capable of cataloging new experimental data as well as producing cutting-edge compounds. Its pledge price is $45 and size is a 2x1. Again, I think it should be a 2x2. Anything to say on the general science module? Looks like this is probably a catch-all for the science gameplay loop.
For science,
Yeah.
as Joe Run said.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be interested to learn more about the difference between the science module and the research module. For me, it's a little bit blurry, but they appear. It seems like it could be completely separate game loops, which I think is what they're getting at. I just don't
Yeah.
quite understand the difference between it.
You know what? Actually, Starlet, you just corrected me. I clicked on the wrong video. The description I just read is for the research module. This module, so many modules, it's hard to keep track. So this is
Okay.
the general research module. Also, though, the same applies to this module. The general research module, which is that science to income module, and I just read the descriptor, $45 pledge price. It's listed as a 2x1 module, but when I look at it, it looks like it should be a 2x2 grid module because it extends so far and starts to intercede other connection points. But again, that could all be very likely changed during reconcepting.
Would you think this is some kind of research tree where you set an experiment to go and try and wait for it to get to the next level in that tree or something like that?
Yeah, and then maybe you can sell that data or somehow find ways to monetize it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Blueprints or something like that. Yeah.
So this is the general research module. I think it's going to be your stepping stone into doing science, but I think you're going to need this as step one.
Dorian says this is the lab module, and the other one is the computer module.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks, John. Again, I think we've had an additional follow or two. Thank you so much, everyone, for the follow. Starting to build up a crowd in here tonight. That is great to see. Thank you all so much for supporting us like you are. We really, really, really appreciate it. Okay, so let's now go into the next module I have queued up, which is, again, I'm calling these as they're listed in the documentation I found, as well as Star Citizen Wiki. I am pulling information from there, so big thanks to them. Next is the General Science module. This is the video I had playing. The General Science module, or Science modules, it's listed. Its role is Science, big surprise there. And its description is, these are designed for analytic data gathering and house a variety of scientific computers and data banks, mainly used for turning the raw information gathered by the general research pods or the telescope array. It can be used for getting data from elsewhere in the verse. It is a 2x1 size. Again, I think that'll probably need to be a 2x2, and its price is $45. So yeah, exactly. This sounds like this is your major computer banks. This is the server blade room in the MSR. Essentially, this is that for the Endeavor, but on a capital scale, used to process information. I think the reason on the Super Collider that we see those additional modules is I think those are computers specifically for harnessing the power of the Super Collider and computationally dealing with that. This plays the same role, but for the other modules, it computes and analyzes and all that stuff. Anything to say before we move on from the General Science module? I know it's pretty obvious what this one is and probably what it's intended to do.
Yeah, just that it's going to be fascinating to see these game loops build out, and I really think they could be a large part of the game.
Yeah. One quick thing, Murder for Hire wrote how many decks. One thing I will say, I don't know if you were referring to the BMM or the Endeavor, whatever. One thing, but it reminded me, one thing I want to bring up about these modules is while they kind of look small here sometimes, you need to remember on the concept art cutaways for these modules here are sometimes multiple decks. I think
that's the question he's asking for the science model. How many decks is that going to be? Do we know?
We don't know for sure because I don't believe I saw a cutaway of this one. I could have missed it, but you can easily assume it's at least 2 decks for sure.
Yeah.
These are pretty substantial modules. I mean, these aren't like, this isn't like attaching a 32580 or shit. I mean, these are multiple rooms, multiple decks. I mean, they're big.
I assume because it's capital class that you'll have to fit these modules at a capital shipyard.
I would think so.
You can just throw on at a station or a planetary zone.
Yeah, I would agree. And these are going to follow that same rule, that inventory rules. Everything follows. If you leave these at one station, store them at a station or something, they're going to be at that station. Ender, go ahead.
I just want to impress on everyone. Try not to ask specific questions because we genuinely have, just the information that we have access
Yeah.
to, and we
Or
can't.
unless you don't mind us speculating wildly.
Yeah, we'll speculate all day long, but don't take that for us knowing what we're talking about on this particular one, because
Yeah.
it's just so many different things going into it. A lot of people are saying it in the chat. This has to grow. It has to get bigger.
Yeah,
It definitely
it's
will.
going to get
So
reconcepted. Yeah.
it's
The
there's a lot going into this that we're
yeah.
speculating
And we
heavily.
should say that the current Endeavor is spec'd out to 200 meters long.
Yeah.
We're going to go into scale later on the show. You'll see very quickly that 200 meters is impossible for this ship for just a few reasons. While I don't think it has to grow to a crazy size, it probably does need to grow um, for a few smaller reasons to, at least to 280 meters, but we'll get into that when we get into scale. So let's go to the next module here. We're going to keep the train moving because there's a lot of modules to cover.
Mhm.
The next module here is the landing bay module. This is how it's currently spec'd out in concept art, and we will go. This probably is one of the more controversial modules
Yeah.
because a lot of people do think that this module dictates the size of the Endeavor, because it has always been said. I think it's said that it holds several Cutlass Reds. Now that could be two, I guess, or more, but that's, I think, the way it's described. And so there's always been a little bit of consternation about what the size of the Endeavor is going to be based off this module, and that's something we'll talk a little bit about. What I can tell you right now is that at 200 meters, and with this module at the size it is in concept art, it can't even fit one Cutlass Red. Just to give you an idea, the
Yeah.
Cutlass Red's 36 meters long. It can't fit one Cutlass Red at 200 meters long, and we'll get into why. So that'll be kind of Jorana. So you asked that. Yeah, I got something for that later in the show. We'll dig in deep on that.
Are those so Wonka Vader things at the back there? Are they supposed to be an elevator that goes up, or are they ladders?
Exactly. So there's a rear entryway back here at the back, doors that you go through that lead you to that back compartment of the hangar that then have elevators that link up into the airlocks of the ship. Obviously the role for the landing bay is ship storage and spawn. The descriptor is a large hangar that is underneath the spacecraft and attaches directly to other laboratory pods. Intended to support hospital operations, the landing bay has room for multiple Cutlass Reds and features complete decontamination facilities. The hangar can also be used alongside standard science modules and can support the upkeep of small spacecraft. Now, the one thing they say here, where they say attaches directly to other laboratory pods, there is concept art on the Hope class where not only does the hangar connect directly to the airlocks, as you see here in this animation, but there's an additional air passageway that connects directly to the hospital module, so that you could go from hangar to hospital without needing to go through the superstructure of the workshop section of the ship.
John says there'll be no magical ship spawning in the future. Totally agree. But in their Q&A, they do specifically say that someone can spawn their ship in here. So if they wake up from hospital, they can go down, grab a ship, and fly back into battle or something like that. I don't know how they're going to reconcile those two differences yet.
Yeah, and Jerron, I think there's still a lot to be figured out with that. I think you're 100% right.
Probably.
And there's
one of them is,
there's going to be multiple ships that have to deal with this issue. Liberator, the Kraken is another big one that's going to have to deal with this issue, although they've said some stuff in regards to it. It'll be interesting to see how that's handled. But yes, I guess supposedly we're going to have to just outfit the ship with another ship via the ship loadout, the VMA, right?
The Q&A was 2015. Wasn't it 2015? So yes, things have changed probably since the Q&A was even done.
VMXEO says, wondering, how does the hangar size compare to a small or medium spaceport hangar? I don't know VMX. I don't know if I've actually done a comparison of the two, but I have an animation later on the show where we get into the hangar and scale, and we'll be able to look at that a little bit more in depth and how it compares to an Apollo and the Cutlass Red. So more on that in a minute.
Yep.
Let's go to the landing bay here, by the way, is a 2x1. Only one can go on an Endeavor at a time, so you can't have two landing bays on the ship. And its pledge price is $75. Obviously, I think this is one of the modules most prepped to be totally redesigned. And we'll get to why later. Next module will be the medical bay, sometimes called the hospital module, or, I'm calling it the medical bay. Its role is to respawn and heal. It's designed as a hospital, complete with operating theaters, recovery rooms, and more. It is intended to operate alongside the optional landing bay module for ferrying patients for treatment and recovery. Again, that note, and let me just switch real quick to the Hope class. I don't know if you can see it in this animation. If you look carefully, though, coming out, when the ship rotates around here, coming out the rear of the hangar, there's additional pathways that go
Very
directly
small.
to the
Yep.
hospital. This is from concept art. You can kind of see those pathways leading underneath the hospital there coming out the back of the hangar. That's what that's referring to.
Yeah, I like that.
As a matter of fact, I will blow that up real quick here so everyone can see it. So the hangar in the Hope class arrangement, so maybe if you had both of these modules on, that additional entryway would then appear or not appear if you didn't have them. But you can see there it's got airlock elevators that go directly up to the workshop and two that go back to the hospital.
Like the planet side hangars have that emergency elevator straight to the hospital.
Right.
It's like an on-ship version of that. It's kind of neat.
Yeah. So that is a hospital bay. I mean, let's talk about this module for a moment here, because this module, obviously we're still ways out for the Endeavor, but it has some of the most pertinent gameplay for the medical gameplay loop that's coming on board with 315, but also the big future pillar core tech that's been on everyone's mind lately, which has been server meshing. When we can have more people in the server, and medical gameplay is super important, and you have events like Xenothreat running, a ship like this is going to be extremely important to have near, the area of operations. Ender, what's your thought, on, the medical bay module being essentially, this massive floating orbital hospital?
I think that it's vital for any fleet personally, but I also think it shows how in depth they're planning on getting with their medical gameplay. I think it's going to be as important as a lot of the science and research items as well. I'm excited for things like surgery to come in the future, and I have a feeling that this is going to be one of those few, if not the only, non major port areas that you might be able to get, a metallic arm put on, or a robotic leg, somewhere where you're going to be able to get things fixed.
It'd be cool if you could, maybe you wouldn't be able to have all these modules on at once, but it'd be cool if maybe the super collider and stuff was able to make supercharged, cybernetic limbs,
Yeah.
or one punch death cybernetics.
Speculation alert.
or as Dorian just said, Fembot laser boobs.
Exactly. It's got to happen.
So I'm a bit confused. Like that, they really do say, again and again, even recently, that this is a hospital level environment.
Tier 1.
And Tier 1. But, the Apollo can have Tier 1 beds too. So
the medevac,
what will
right?
the difference be? And well, actually, both the Apollos, if you reorganize them, you can remove like 3 Tier 3s and put in 1 Tier 1. So
gotcha.
It takes 3 slots in any of the Apollos. And there's 6 slots in total. But here we've got a hospital level facility. I'm not sure what that actually means. Does that just mean that there's more room to store the clone goo, or so you can do more clones, or does that mean that even between tier 1 beds, there's a difference in quality somehow that might reduce the effects of being rezzed. And that's even before we start to talk about, well, what actually is death of a spaceman, and would you want to die in a battle and have a hospital ship near sort of would you have a hospital ship near expecting to die and have to use it, or would you just put so much effort into not dying because of death of a spaceman and the negatives to having your character die?
Yeah,
I think maybe it'll be a little bit of a kind of a mix of both. You're going to fight real hard not to die, but I also think having a hospital ship nearby in the same system at a minimum will be important as well.
Yeah,
Ed says the whole point of tier 1 is to spawn. Yeah, totally. But the question is, even with tier 1, there's going to be repercussions to your characters, and a certain amount of times you can respawn, even in tier 1, before you have to pass on to your next character all of your stuff. So I'm so curious as to how that's going to work and be balanced.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to step away for half a second. I'll be right back, guys.
No problem, Ender. Yeah, I mean, the meta, this module, obviously, I think will be one of the more popular modules for the Endeavor. Again, we don't know how many medical ships will come online with the tier 1 capabilities. I think it's just this and the Apollo right now. So this will be a popular module, absolutely, because
the cap ships might get a tier 1, like Javelin and Idris might get a tier 1B. We don't know yet.
I personally think the Javelin should have a tier 1 medical facility on board, personally. I think the Idris and Kraken, at the very least, should have tier 2, and you be able to upgrade it to a tier 1. I think that should be upgrade paths we have on those capital ships, absolutely. Let's see here. Let's move on to our next module, the service module. Let me go ahead and read the descriptor for that. So the service module's role is listed as essentially crew capacity. Its descriptor is adds additional crew facilities, allowing the workshop module, which is that superstructure of the ship, to function as a standalone installation for longer missions or for the overall ship to support additional crew in general. So one thing that I think we would need to bring up that PDF you found, that early jump point or whatever it was, Starlette, but they did go into the crew requirements for a fully laden Endeavor, and the crew requirements can get pretty high, especially with modules like the hospital module and general science modules and stuff. You might have 4 or 5 people in those modules working them. You know what I mean? So with that, you're going to need plenty of facilities for people to store their stuff, do sleep, hygiene, etc., etc. I could see the service module being the module, for example, that comes with a galley, kitchen, extra bathrooms, that type of stuff that we know is going to play a role. How in depth, we don't totally know, but we know that's going to play a role. So I can see that this is the module that does that. Again, people, if you come in and hit follow on us, really, really appreciate it. I know we aren't calling out by names because we have so much to go through, but we do appreciate your follows and all your support. Thank you so much for coming by tonight and hanging out with us. Starlette, go ahead. I cut you off.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the crew module is for NPCs as well as player characters, probably. So, I mean, when you've got NPCs on your ship running experiments or whatever they're doing, they're going to have to shifts. They're going to have to have downtime and uptime and rotate around. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, Ender, we just went over the service module, which essentially adds crew facilities to the Endeavor. We're thinking things like galleys and beds and storage and all that stuff. And like you said, Starlight, probably for NPC crews as well. Like maybe the Endeavor is able to support 30 NPC crew members depending on the modules, but if you add this on, it can do 50 or whatever. We don't obviously speculating, but
it's like the Javelin can house 80 people, but the reality is that's for 3 shifts of NPCs at max, right? So the crew requirements are actually a third of that max.
Yeah. To keep us moving on, though, we're going to move on to the last two modules. The next one here is the Super Collider. The Super Collider, its role is for overclocking. The description is this is an elaborate overclocking facility. It includes a pair of White Room Workbench labs, those are those modules, ideal for tweaking and overclocking ship components like weapons or thrusters, pushing them to their theoretical limits. Again, so not only could this be something a race team would use to overclock the thrusters on their race ships, but this could be something a combat team wants back at the main HQ to get their ship weapons and stuff overclocked if they're about to go against a major, a big org or something, and some big PvP thing or something.
I've only just realized, I realized earlier on in the episode, I'm so disappointed. I was thinking that I would have tons of these things lined up, ready to overclock all the guns on the Javelin. And then I realized, oh, those guns are enormous. How would you even move them onto this thing to overclock them?
Yeah. Well, that will be interesting to see how that works. Yeah, totally. For example, it's possible that those big White Room labs, maybe they have big doors that can open up. You probably have to vent the room first for a minute, but then maybe you can move in components or something. I don't know.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's true. And maybe there are smaller components within the guns that you can do the overclock. That's a really good point. Good thinking.
One thing I will say is this is a 2x2 module, so this is one of the larger modules. It takes up the 2x2 grid slots. Its pledge price is $125, and you can only put one of these on a ship. Remember, the Endeavor has 3 grid slots, 3 horizontal grid slots. This takes up 2 of them, so there isn't enough left for another one of these.
Nandia, the Super Collider was originally called the Gravity Ring, which is probably why it's still spinning.
Gotcha. Okay. It may not need to spin. I think the reason I made it spin is because in one of the pieces of concept art, they had a lot of motion blur, radial motion blur on it that made it look like it was in a spinning motion. But yes, if it is a particle or a Super Collider, it would not need to spin technically.
Maybe the gravity holds the magnets in place. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I'm going to side with Chris Roberts and Joran on this one and go with Rule of Cool. Again, everyone remember, a lot of speculation on this episode. But wanted to do these visuals so that when we're talking about these specific modules, we had something directly to look at and relate to and sort of bring that concept art to life. Again, one of the things we want to try to do on Starjump Station is to add a little bit to the conversation, the great discussion from a visual standpoint that can, reinforce some of the things we're talking about. Anything on the Super Collider from either of you in terms of its future in the verse? Obviously, we haven't heard a ton about the future of overclocking and stuff like that yet, but
I'd like to thank Nandia for being here and her input today, given that she's got a broken finger.
Oh.
She must be typing with one hand or something.
Well, hope Nandia gets better.
There are so many jokes to make, Nandia, but I'm going to be nice and say I hope you get better soon.
That's good.
Yeah, I bet it has.
So let's continue to move on because we still have some more to cover. Let's see. We're going to go on to last module here. Last but certainly not least, the telescope array or the telescope module. Its role is point of interest discovery and science. Descriptor is this is an extremely powerful mobile stellar observatory which can be useful for everything from standard navigation studies to jump point discoveries. We heard on CitizenCon when they were talking about the Stanton Pyro jump point that there was going to be additional kind of hidden jump point eddies that you could go through that weren't the main jump point. Maybe this is the type of ship that would be able to do that study, find out where those entries are, package that information up, put it on the market in whatever way it goes on the market, and maybe someone in their Star Runner or their freelancer could buy that information, and once they have the location of that, it'll pop up on their star map, and then they can travel that eddy. I don't know, I'm speculating, but what is your Ender and Starlette, what's your thoughts on the telescope module and its usage?
This totally has a James Webb telescope feel to it.
Yes.
It's got that vibe going on. Absolutely. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
I'm
I don't know.
pretty
I'd
excited
love.
to see what they do with it.
Sorry, go Endo.
No. Go ahead, Starlette.
I'm totally curious as to how this will compare to the Carrick's jump point scanning aerials. I'm wondering if this will have more capability or if it's going to be similar.
Yeah.
So many questions are unanswered yet
Yeah.
around this.
It ties in a little bit for me, something we've heard a lot about with exploration, which are long distance probes, which I think are on the progress tracker or even already finished. I would love more clarification on exploration and science and where they overlap and where they don't overlap.
Yeah.
The differences between scanning with this telescope, scanning with
But
these long
Dorian
distance
says
probes.
that this will be able to find jump points systems away, whereas the Carrick will be finding jump points in the system, perhaps.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's interesting.
Well, and that's a good point. That's honestly what I'm hoping. These different sized components allow us to do. For example, one thing me and Ender have talked a lot about are just, for example, when you go into a system, just general security, right, for your ship or your fleet or
Yep.
whatever. And one thing I've always said is, man, I definitely will want to send like the Polaris or something with a capital size radar, and there aren't many ships that have that, in first ahead of the fleet, primarily because I'm hoping that capital class radars will be able to scan almost an entire system.
Yeah.
Or maybe even if not an entire system, then at least a 1/4 quadrant of it to get a good
Yep.
layout of what the threats are in the region. I don't know if that'll eventually be the case, but that's what I'm hoping. So I'm hoping that, for example, with this giant telescope, if we're following Dorian's logic here, you could scan a hostile system that you don't even want to take the Endeavor in, but you could scan it maybe and get that information without endangering the ship.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay,
In
so
which case,
Dorian,
this is the top tier of jump point exploration.
yeah. So Dorian says here the Endeavor deep space radar will let it find jump points in systems without exposing it to the danger of being in that system. Carrick needs to be in the system and is armored enough to survive hostile space. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dorian.
And fast enough, perhaps, to survive hostile space.
Yeah. Yeah. Also true. So real quick on the telescope module, this is a 2x1. You can only do one per ship though, even though it's a 2x1. And its pledge price is $125. Again, to recap, going back to our master set here, let me go back to that visual here. Sorry. With the master set, we've talked about the pledge prices of all the individual modules and stuff. I think with the master set overall, if you get that, you're saving. Does anyone remember? I think it's overall a discount of like maybe $100 or $200 if you were to buy all the modules individually. I can't remember exactly how much that discount is, but I think it's somewhere around there. There's
The
a
only
discount
way,
for it.
it's the only way to get LTI on modules if you
And the
need that,
yeah,
and that's a question,
yeah,
not a suggestion.
yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so let's talk about. I'm going to switch back to our base animation here, and the next thing we wanted to discuss regarding the Endeavor was gone over the modules in depth. We've gone over the gameplay loops, that were possible with those with those modules. Next, let's go into scale speculation. I know that's a pretty big topic with the Endeavor. One thing I can currently say is the Endeavor is spec'd out on the ship matrix to be 200 meters long. That is not only the Explorer cab, but the workshop and drive, the entire ship hull at 200 meters. That probably did seem big enough back in the early days when things like the Cuddy Red were much smaller. Remember the Cuddy series was redesigned and they're bigger ships now. I don't know what the original meterage of the first versions were, but going back into those early days, a lot of ships were not spec'd to be as big as they were. Things like the Idris grew significantly. Wasn't the Idris originally spec'd to be around like 125 meters or something before it grew to 240? I think that's why the Polaris was created, for example, was to fill that role that the Idris previously filled. So scale and Star Citizen has grown over time. We've sort of seen that with the BMM recently and its new concept. So the
Has there been
logical,
a ship that got smaller ever?
I don't know. Is there a ship that got small? Oh, well, I guess a little bit the Carrack, because the Carrack was smaller. Well, it was 125 meters. Then the Carrack grew, and I'm sure someone in chat can correct me on this. The Carrack then grew to like 150 meters or 160 meters long, and then they shrunk it back down to 125 meters. And John Crew talked a little bit about that. Chaos says 170. Did it grow all the way to 170? Wow. So John Crew brought it back down to 125 because he said that it was really just losing corridors and stuff and not really losing any of its major rooms. So I do know that the Carrack, though, at one time, the Carrack has shifted scales over time. I think it was smaller and then it went bigger and now it's back. So I think that's maybe the only time that's really happened. I can't remember if any other ships shrunk. You know what ship I actually really like the smaller concept of? Joran may not like hearing me say this, but the 890 Jump's original concept size and look, I really liked. The 890 Jump originally had when it was smaller, it had like a rear spoiler on it and stuff. I really liked that concept. I kind of hope they bring that out one day.
The 880.
Yeah, exactly, the 880. Okay, so let's get back on topic here. We're talking about Endeavor size. So one place we can start when speculating on size, and I'm going to go ahead and warn everyone in chat, we're entering highly speculative mode right now. If I had little red lights that could flash all over the stream right now, they'd be flashing because we're going into big time speculation mode. Take nothing we say with any sort of weight. We're simply theory crafting and speculating. That's all we're doing. Thank you, His Divine Shadow, throwing up the speculation zone bracket. We really appreciate it. Okay, so from here on out,
you have now entered the speculation zone.
yes,
Thank you.
Yeah, we're definitely entering in a danger zone. But let's talk about where most people naturally start when discussing scale with this ship. They usually start with the hangar module, the landing bay module, and specifically a term used in relation to that landing bay. And the term was, I'm going to get the exact one, says the landing bay has room for multiple Cutlass Reds. Okay, that's the descriptor. Obviously, that is really vague. I'm sure CIG does not want anyone reading gospel into that. But if we take that one thing into, as our one starting point with speculation, we know that at the very minimum, the landing bay needs to hold one Cuddy Red at the very minimum, right? If we base everything off of the concept art, which is just concept art, meaning the size of the hangar and the current design of the hangar in relation to the size of the Endeavor, because those are shown in concept art, and we build that out, the hangar itself cannot hold one Cuddy Red. We're going to switch over to an animation here. I'm going to narrate through this animation. It's a very rough animation, but I'm going to narrate, talk over it a little bit. It's a little rough, but it gives you an idea of the problems with the Endeavor's scale and where maybe it could go. Now, one thing I will also say about the Endeavor is I personally do not think the Endeavor will go over 480 meters. CIG has said that the Javelin is the largest player ownable ship, but they also specifically said that in recent times. John Crew said that as recently as 2 Invictuses ago, I believe. Don't quote me on that. It's a video from either an Invictus or an IE. He did say that again. That was brought up.
Was that specifically regarding length? Because interpretations could be like gun sizes or.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. he did say it wasn't as specific as that, but he said Javelin being the biggest player ownable ship. Now I'm going to go with length on that, which is a speculative argument, but I'm going to go with length. So let's assume that for a minute. Yes, Bluesy. Girth is always something one needs to consider in situations
See?
like that. It's very important.
Bluesy, that's the reason I laughed, by the way, because I thought it would be Nadia that hit it first, but
Yeah.
she is obviously being nice right now.
It's not it's really not the length of the Endeavor, it's how you use it. I just want to drive that home right now. So we'll get back on topic here. So I am going to assume that any scale changes we make to the Endeavor need to keep it sub 480 meters. I also don't think there's any reason why this ship needs to be 480 meters long. So we're going to stay under 480 in our speculation, and we are going to start with the Cuddy Red, which we know needs to work with this ship, and the hangar bay. The Cuddy Red is 36 meters long. Everyone keep that in mind. And the Endeavor is currently 200 meters long. So let's switch over to a rough animation. I'm going to walk us through this, and then we'll all speculate and discuss. So we're going to switch over to our animation. Here you see a 200 meter long Endeavor with the hangar module appropriately sized and a 36 meter long Cuddy Red. Obviously, you see it's not going to work. We're going to go down here. I'll slide the Cuddy Red over. It clips through. That is obviously not going to work. So what we're going to do next is scale from 200 meters all the way up to 425 meters. Okay, still sub 480.
Trang is asking, is that the new Cuddy size or the previous
This
Cuddy
is the
size?
new Cuddy size, 36 meters. Now we can have a Cuddy Red that can perfectly fit in there, at least one. Now, the one tricky thing about this hangar having one entry is it means a ship needs to come in, has to do an awkward 360 in an enclosed space to land. There's a lot of issues, in my opinion, with this hangar arrangement. The other thing is they do mention several Cuddy Reds. This hangar only really allows you to squeeze in two very carefully. Now, like you've said earlier, Starlette, they could expand this hangar really to be any size. But what I think really needs to happen, and what has been brought up by some people, is we need to do away with this hangar and bring in a front end or a back and front entry hangar. Okay, you still retain your two elevator points, but the elevators or the hangar is longer and has two entry points. That way, you could bring in multiple Cuddy Reds. It could be longer, it could be wider, by the way, to hold more ships. But you could land them. They could do their thing, go up the elevators there on the sides, and then both fly out easy, in an easier way. Also, with this arrangement, and again, this could scale from a vertical or horizontal way to even hold more ships, but you could also fit Apollo comfortably in there. That is an Apollo sized to 43 or 46 meters like it's supposed to be. Now, scaling the Endeavor to that, to be able to hold those ships as you've seen in this animation, brings the Endeavor to roughly a scale of about 425 meters. Obviously, it could go more or less, which, if you bring up our other monster ships in the verse, puts it at around this scale. Still sub-Javelin size, but a true capital monster at this point. That 425 meter scale up obviously would affect a lot of modules and stuff. However, there's multiple ways of looking at this. We could look at it where the hangar massively expands and the Endeavor doesn't get any bigger. My one issue with that, Starlette, and I know you brought up that argument earlier in the episode, my one argument with that is that you really would end up with this huge component on the bottom of the ship, and it would look kind of weird balance-wise. And knowing how much CIG puts into overall, those small aesthetic details, I personally feel they'll scale everything to fit comfortably with nice ship silhouettes. That's my thinking. But so now that we've seen this, we kind of see the argument with the scale. We know 200 meters isn't going to work. Let's open it up for speculation. Chat, if you have anything you want to bring up, put your question in brackets. Ender, go ahead. I cut you off.
No, you're good. Actually, this Joran brings up a good point. How would that fit with the hospital module? What if you took the concept that you currently have and you turned it on its side instead of on its back, and your landing were to be coming in from the side here? And you land in go through to the hospital module and take off out. Now it's a difficult landing, but it's doable. For
Another way
anybody.
to do that, though, that really wouldn't require any changes, would just be to have additional hallways coming off the sides there of those elevators that go back and up to the hospital, because it's going to be right there. The
That's true.
hospital, the good thing about it is, while it is a 2x2 grid module, it doesn't extend any lower.
That's
So
true.
ships coming in won't be impeded. So that's one good
Yep.
thing. Also, remember, currently in concept art, the hangar is kind of snugged up under the belly of the Endeavor. There's no reason that can't be an additional 20 meters lower. You know what I mean? Hanging at more of a safety clearance style distance from the ship.
Yeah.
I just want to reiterate to anyone who's just joined, there's been no mention of this design from CIG. This is just our idea on how to fix what's obviously broken with the concept design so far.
Yes, this is all extremely speculative. CIG has not talked about this ship in quite a while. But again, the Endeavor is a popular ship amongst people coming into Star Citizen. And it's one of those ships, to me, I put it there with, the Javelin, the BMM, the Kraken.
Yeah.
Typically, they're big ships. Not always. I think the Star Runner falls into this category too. They're ships that people see that don't play the game that go, oh, that ship is gorgeous or awesome or cool or whatever. I want to figure out what Star Citizen is.
Also, this ship is going to be attractive to people who aren't sort of shooty, right?
Yeah.
So people who aren't going in there for PvP or aren't going in there for fighting, but want to do trade skilling, want to do medical stuff, want to do farming. Like it's a completely different side of Star Citizen that's yet to be explored for people who enjoy that kind of game.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I will personally say is that I just don't. I see, even if let's remove all the discussion of scale for a moment. In a hospital scenario, and I know, Dorian, I think you brought up that the landing bay will be used for more than just medical. Totally 100% agree with you there. The only reason I talked about it in a medical standpoint is they do talk about the hangar having that kind of symmetry with the hospital thing. But yes, you're absolutely right. It'll be used for other modules. But specifically, when thinking about hospital gameplay and using the Cuddy Reds as a medic or an ambulance type ship, they need to get in, land quickly, get that patient up to the hospital. They can't be spending 25 minutes carving the ship into a small little hangar, doing perfect little landing movers. So to me, whichever direction CIG takes with the hangar, they're going to have to do some significant redesigns just to get the ships in there quickly, get them on the ground quickly, and get them unloaded quickly. Yeah, definitely, Dorian. I know you just pointed it out. I just think I think that what you brought up is a good point. That and it's really a good point in regards to all the modules. The challenging thing with this ship will be when they reconcept all this stuff is not only the module itself, but how it interplays with other modules. So that will be really interesting. This is definitely going to be one of the most complicated ships just from a management standpoint. I mean, could you imagine operating this in a fleet in the future when all of its modules and gameplay are online? This is not going to be a 5-person ship. You know what I mean, there's a lot of stuff to manage here.
Grim,
one of the people in chat, I forget the scroll to the screen. One of the people in chat mentioned, why don't you put landing pads on the top? And while that's probably an awesome idea, they've already sold the hangar module, 1,000 times. So they will be building the hangar module.
Yep.
Yeah, what's funny about that, and Ender, if I can jump in, I think you were going to say something. One thing I was going to say was that I actually did I don't have it on prepped for this show, everyone, so I'm sorry, but I actually did my own version of the Endeavor where I ripped the Kraken's landing pads off of it and kit bashed an Endeavor that used landing pads instead of a hangar, and it actually looks really cool. I need to post that up on our Twitter soon. I always get a little worried because I sometimes building that stuff out, and that's primarily why I built this animation to be just kind of like single color shader stuff, because I want to be careful sometimes about showing stuff that's not what CIG has shown and someone thinking that's what it's going to be. Again, we're in high speculation mode here. But Ender, did I cut you off on it?
I was actually making a request for Joe Run. Can you go into full screen for that hangar animation that we have running right now?
Let me see if I do. Do I have that stated for full screen? I don't know if I do, but I can make that happen. Give me a minute. Why don't y'all continue to talk amongst yourself? Yeah. I will.
Yeah, I could see a sideways hangar as well, maybe, but I like this one the best. The double entrance one is good.
Nadia, I think that what you're going to be looking at is similar to what we have right now for the R&Rs, which is the laser area grid thing. When you exit, that you have, once you get off the elevator, you have that 10-foot area that is pressurized and has air.
Press play, Grim.
And then when you exit the area, that laser grid, you are not breathing. I think that's what we're going to be looking at there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, look, CIG has never been one to shy away from showing a concept and redesigning it to the point of unrecognizableness. You know what I mean? The hangar in these modules, though, it's less important about how they look and more important about their function. And I agree. I agree with you, Starlette, in that it's still going to be a hangar because they've sold it as such. And if we go back to that module description, let me read that again. It says a large hangar that is underneath the spacecraft and attaches directly to other laboratory pods. It says here that it contains a complete decontamination facility, and the hangar can also be used alongside science modules to support upkeep and supports the upkeep of small spacecraft. That could mean some very light refueling, maybe repair capabilities. We don't know. That's speculation.
If we go on the Liberator Q&A, I mean, they might just mean, yeah, it does support upkeep with a hand tool, something stupid like that. Like, there's a lot of room for them to move in that wording.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
One thing I will say, Griffin, I see your message there. Can I just replay your show? Here's one thing I'll say, Griffin. You may have, I can't remember if we said this at the top of the show or not. We definitely called you and Soul Citizens out for all the great support you have given Starjump lately. We really appreciate it. One thing I was telling Starlette and Ender, though, is that you have a Endeavor episode coming up that you want to do, and definitely any of the visuals you want that you've seen on this show, just shoot me a chat on Discord and I can give you the full the full MP4s so you can put them into your own stream if you want. More than happy to provide those. Absolutely. And one thing I've told people before when it comes to like some of my model work and 3D work that I've done, yes, I put a lot of time and effort and hours into these for sure, especially to make certain things look good and stuff. There's a lot of rendering costs that go along with this stuff. For example, to render while this is just color coded here, but to render the fully textured Endeavors and stuff, it actually costs money to render and it's not exactly cheap. At the end of the day, these are not my designs. These are CIG's. We as a community have pledged into this game and, are all part of this journey together. So one thing that when we started Starjump we wanted to do was really make allies amongst our other content creators that want to be partners with us. And so absolutely, Griffin, any of the content you see here tonight, any of the module videos, any of the beauty Endeavor renders, the master set images, any of that stuff, any of those animations you want, just message me and I will package those up and shoot them to you.
Sorry, I've got to interrupt. I apologize. First of all, Griffin, don't tear up because we're going to start doing that. But we do have a vitally important question in the chat from
Send
Bingo
it.
Winchester. He's wondering where Starlette's emoticon is, and I'm wondering the same thing.
Well, I can answer that. I failed pretty hard this week because I was hard at work getting all the Endeavor visuals ready for this episode. This I knew was going to be a pretty key episode for us. So
Oh
we
yeah.
did not get to the Starlet emo, but you can bet your ass that for next
I'm getting pressure here.
for the next Starjump station, there's going to be a Starlet emo, and I already have a good idea of what I want it to be.
Oh
So
God.
we'll talk about that.
Yes.
But yes, thank you for the compliments, Griffin. Really appreciate it. I enjoyed jumping in on the Soul Citizens conversation the other night too. I appreciate y'all letting me join in on that.
Hopefully soon
the
I will be able to do something similar.
the Endeavor is a ship that we knew we wanted to do on Starjump Station. We talked about it before we even started the show, but way back when we were in the planning stages. We talked at length about doing an episode on the Endeavor. It is a key ship, is an important ship. It's a ship with a lot to talk about. And there's quite a few ships like this in game. I think another one that kind of falls into this category is probably the Crucible. I have a lot of really great visuals on deck for the future Crucible episode as well. But one thing we want to try to do is look, there's a lot of content creators out there who have made amazing episodes on these ships where they go in length and talk about stuff. So I know a lot of this stuff can sometimes be a little rehashed, but we do try to bring something a little bit new to it through visuals and maybe just through our unique perspectives. But the Endeavor's an exciting ship. I mean, it's one that that even though it has been said that it's going to be the last ship to be made, it's way far off, it constantly comes up in discussions. So
Yeah,
I always think that's
it's a great
interesting.
show.
We've
It's
been,
important to keep reminding people that this is going to get completely reconcepted, most likely, and we don't know the details of the game loops.
yeah,
While we can be excited about the ship and its promise of future gameplay, all of this stuff is speculative right now, and we don't want to get too heavy into speculation on Starjump Station. But this is such a unique ship, and what we know about it should be discussed at some level. So
yeah, and I mean, it's not unreasonable to think that CIG digests some of these videos like this, much like they read things on Spectrum and other
maybe it'd be
stuff.
for good.
And
Yeah.
and while I'm sure they don't take everything that's wished for, complained about, they don't act on all that stuff. Ships that are far out like this, the way we play the game, the gameplay systems that are coming online, and discussions like this can lead to at least interesting discussions, maybe internally at CIG. So it's always worth it. For the sake of time, I do want to push us along a little bit here. Real quick, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because we could go into speculation zone for an hour, but are there any critical modules you think are missing that CIG has not announced? Ender, let's start with you. Let's just pick one. Do you think there's a single critical module that this ship needs?
Nandia.
Nandia says nightclub module. I
I
agree.
think that would be a great one, actually. I could see some militarized stuff, but this is really not for that. Like a drop pod module or something like that. But I personally would not want to see that with this ship.
Rehab module.
Actually, Divine Shadow isn't far off. A rehab module, I can see your character needing specific drugs if you overuse them. I could see that becoming a part of gameplay.
Sure.
And a rehab module would be kind of an interesting loop that might be super simple, but might also be something interesting to have on like an Endeavor, where you have somebody who runs a rehab facility for the verse.
Yeah.
But I would say that right now, because this is a science and exploration, the only thing I would think is a survival module where it's maybe a drop pod type module where if something goes wrong with the ship and you're near a planet, it can drop this off, and it's a survivable place for the people who are on the ship.
Would
and
that be
and,
like
and
something you
working
could
on it.
drop off essentially from orbit? Because obviously the
Yep,
superstructure can't go in the atmosphere, but you
absolutely.
drop off from orbit and it can maybe has some small maneuvering thrusters where it
Yep.
can at least get into atmosphere and land.
Exactly. And
That'd be
it's
kind of cool.
something where maybe it's a research module that you would then have to go pick up with something else, or it's just a survival module because the ship is too damaged to continue or something like that. But I do think that something like that would be very interesting and fun.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't think about that. That's a good one. Starlet, what do
With
you
that
think?
with that telescope, it just sings out. There needs to be a pirate radio station option on here. That'd be so
That'd be
cool.
cool.
But actually, I'd go the other way, and I'd say this is the first of its kind for these game loops. There will be other ships that do these game loops in combination or individually. There are ships out there with modular facilities. Maybe the Cat will get some of these science or research functions. Maybe
Hmm.
the Javelin, with its 6 module rooms, will get some of these functions. So the opposite, I don't think they're going to. I would doubt that they would release more modules. This is already going to be delayed until probably near live anyway. But maybe,
Yeah.
10 years down the track after live, maybe there'll be tons of interesting things that you can do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know someone just asked, can't the Endeavor separate? Yes, it can. You'll see it here in this animation. I'll let this play for a moment, Shady. The Endeavor is made up of 3 sections, essentially the Explorer cab, the Workshop, which is that primary spine superstructure, and the Drive section, which is its quantum drive and main thrusters. You'll see here in just a minute in this animation where the Endeavor or the Explorer cab separates and stuff. The one thing I will note, we said this at the beginning of the show, is that Explorer cab does not have a quantum drive, so you're not going to be going long distance with it.
Garflower asks, am I going to be a doctor or a scientist?
Mm.
I'll be aboard the bridge of one of my javelins with a mug of coffee, watching things blow up.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about the Endeavor, and from a module standpoint, and I keep thinking about it has a lot of modules that are primary gameplay modules, obviously. Um, science, agriculture, stuff like that. But one big thing that concerns me about the Endeavor is it also seems like one of the biggest target ships out there next to like a Hull E or, the big cargo ship. Like if you're an org that wants to cause problems, you're going to be looking for the Endeavors, right?
Yeah.
Because they have a lot of things you can wreak havoc with. And I truly do feel like one, especially if this is a hospital ship or a research ship, I think there needs to be a module that is a point defense module, and maybe it's a smaller module, a 2x1 that maybe has some arms that radiate out, which we actually have seen in some early Endeavor concept art. They had modules that had arms that would extend way out from the ship, but some arms that extend out that have point defense weaponry on them. PT Mud Dog, hope you're well. Thanks for stopping by.
Hey,
Really
Matt,
appreciate you. Always love
so
the Texas Space Navy.
you wouldn't just see a Nautilus drop some point defense kind of mines around it or something like
Maybe
that?
that could be a good interchange. I mean, as a Nautilus owner now, one I'm very proud to own, I could definitely think that would be cool. But yeah, it depends. It's that, yeah. I mean, I do think CIG needs to find ways for ships to interplay together, and there be a reason for that interplay. Absolutely. So, 100%, this is a ship I think the Nautilus should probably travel with. Um,
Nadia actually has a really
Go ahead.
interesting thought there. She said a massive extendable solar power array that you're able to, for lack of a better term, beam power to other locations, like planet side.
Yeah. In the original
Kind of cool.
PDF, Starlet, that original PDF that you found when we were doing research for this episode, was that a jump point?
Yeah, it's a jump point. It's in the
Yeah.
subscriber area.
Okay.
2015. You can download it.
Yeah, there's a
If you're a
jump point
subscriber.
that's on the Endeavor, really in depth. They go on in a lot of the modules. Now, bear in mind, it's super early stuff, obviously, but they have a number of concept images of the Endeavor with large solar panel arrays as modules. I forget specifically what they said they were used for. I think it was power related, but yeah, they had those. They had concept art of these modules that had long extending arms with point defense weaponry. So they've explored other things for sure. Yeah, so what else did we want to talk about? I think the next thing we wanted to talk about are what are the tech requirements needed for the Endeavor. This is just something really quick I wanted to touch on. We don't need to go too in depth on it, but Starlette, definitely interject if you have a thought that pops. But when I was thinking about the Endeavor, I know everyone says, oh, it's going to be the last ship to be made. It's way far off. Things 25 years away, whatever. That may very well be true. It may be very far off. But from a technical standpoint, now that modularity seems to be something CIG is focusing on, I know they're dealing with it with the Retaliator first. I think they've even said all the Retaliator's modules are done technically and built out. I think John Crew even said that. Modules are something that they could do. We know they've been working on the MISC design language. There's plenty of MISC ships out there already, and if you believe the leaks, we're about to get another MISC ship. In addition to that, one of the other primary things I think they would need to solve are things like expanding physics grids, and the room system would obviously need to be a thing. We know all the room system is in development. We know the expanding physics grids and all that stuff have been worked on for the whole sea, and apparently that's been solved. I absolutely could not have all the technical information needed, but when I break it down like that, I don't feel like there's any like major technical reasons why the Endeavor couldn't be put into production right away. I think once it does go into production, it will be a 2-year long development for this ship. But from a technical requirement standpoint, I don't think there's anything necessarily missing.
How do they take on other capital ships? I mean, I guess none of them are, well, the 890 is almost there, but not.
Yeah.
Do they take 2 years on each of them?
I don't know. I personally think it has a lot to do with how much concepting needs to happen, how much design language stuff is already built. Like, for example, I think one of the easier capitals for them to do would be the Kraken, primarily because its exterior is already very well built out and game optimized already. That's something I've talked with Piggles in detail a little bit on. And in addition to that, the Kraken doesn't really have anything from an interior perspective that couldn't be ripped mostly from the Caterpillar. Caterpillar Cuddy design language. It's a lot of corridors. Obviously, some stuff would have to be built out, but the Drake design language is pretty much there. No, I don't agree with the people that say, oh well, we need to have server meshing for the Kraken or the Idris, or we need to have these gameplay loops. That does not seem to stop CIG on anything. If gameplay were a requirement for a ship, the 890 would not be released. There's plenty of ships. The Reclaimer would not be released if gameplay was. So I don't personally believe that stuff. I don't believe personally that the BMM is going to have functioning marketplace at launch.
Sure.
If it does, hey, they surprised me, but I don't think it will. But capitals, though, I mean, if you look at the BMM, I think it went through. Chat, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't it go through like a 6-month reconcepting, and doesn't it have about 9 months worth of work finishing around June, July of next year? It's something like that. So not quite 2 years on the BMM, but a significant amount of time. Quinn says about that. Yeah, it's roughly around there. The BMM, I imagine, is probably one of the harder capitals to do with the alien design language and stuff. Something like the Polaris with RSI, because they could pull heavily from the Bengal and stuff like that. There's some capitals I think they could bust out pretty quickly. I think Kraken, Polaris could be pretty quick ships to do. Maybe 8 months. I don't know.
It does seem sensible that they would release the Endeavour in stages, though, per game loop. So it does make sense to me that they would go and do the Hope first, even if that is a long way out, and then as they bring in other game loops, they can just add the facilities on ship for those game loops.
I do hope that if the hope, pun intended, I guess, I do hope that the Hope class comes out, if it comes out first. Medical gameplay's grown a little bit. I feel like it would need to be a little more in depth for that to be their major thing.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, I mean, out of all the capitals, honestly, the two that, you know how everyone says, oh, for this capital, we need server meshing, we need server meshing. There's only two capitals I honestly think about when I think of server meshing, though. The Javelin, because it has such a massive crew requirement, and the Endeavor. We've seen the crew spec outs in that early PDF that you had sent to us, Starlette. You know, some of the crew requirements based off different module attachments go as high as like 36, 45 people. And if you're even with the Hope, it being a hospital ship, it's going to have a lot of beds, so it could support a lot of people. So I could see a higher server count being important to something like the Endeavor. I still don't think it's critical for it. I don't think any of that matters to CIG at this stage. I could totally be wrong. It's not like I have a red phone sitting on my desk direct to John Crew and I just call him up every now and then, although I love that. But regardless, everyone keeps saying, oh, that going forward, they're not going to release any ships that don't get gameplay attached. I mean, none of that's true. I mean, the Carrack was released, no exploration. I mean, there's so many unused systems on the Carrack. It's not even funny. The drone room is empty. There are, the quantum sensors, the jump point sensors don't work. There's the exploration gameplay's in. The reclaimer doesn't find. I don't think any of that really matters. I think Jerron, I think that statement's silly. I think the ship team just pushes out ships when they can. I think when it works out great that a gameplay system's coming online for a ship, then they do it. I think if that truly was the case, then we'd be seeing the Apollos a launch-aside medical gameplay. Because what is more perfect for medical gameplay than the Apollos? Yeah. It's not a huge ship. I think the Apollos are only 46 meters long, at least currently. They could get reconcepted, so it's not a massive ship. It's about the length of a Star Runner or something. So I don't totally believe in that. But yeah, technical wise though, I don't see a lot of things holding the Endeavor back other than it's a monster of a ship they just may not want to deal with right now. Let's move on. We got to get moving.
Go ahead, asks, what's the next ship we're going to be talking about on Starjump Station? We don't actually know yet. We've got a few episodes lined up, but we haven't made a decision about what the next one will be.
True, absolutely. That's correct. What I can say about future Starjump Station episodes, though, is that you can expect probably on the Friday night that IAE starts, we're going to do a kind of CCU Hanger Link focused episode. Probably isn't going to be like a 3-hour long episode or anything. Might be like a nice kind of short 1-hour episode just on CCU chaining and stuff like that. Starlette will definitely probably be taking the lead on that episode, but I think that are doing a lot of the talking. But I think you can expect that, and you can obviously expect a lot of probably a couple supplemental shorter Starjump Station episodes during IAE to cover whatever news comes out. Yeah. And yes, I agree with that statement, Mud Dog. Let's keep moving, though. We got one more kind of thing to cover on the Endeavor, and that is the age-old question. Should you buy the MISC Endeavor? Should you pledge for it with real money? And then that kind of leads us also into the CCU discussion around the Endeavor. I want to hand this one straight over to Starlette. She's our CCU master. Starlette, yes. What do you think about pledging for this ship now versus when it goes flight ready, and what are the benefits to that, maybe?
The silly answer is yes. You should buy one. Yeah. the more practical answer is, look, we don't know what the ship will end up like. We don't know what the game loops will end up like. We don't know the realities of operating this ship in game, and it's pretty hard to recommend people spend real money on something that's so far away. So I tend to believe in keeping options open. And to me, that means locking in today's price so that if you want it later, if it does turn out to be the amazing ship we think it will be, you've got the option there to get it for the price that it's for sale at today, because they will put the price up on this. It will go up, like the base itself without modules will go up past $600, $700, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So today at IAE, unless the price goes up, which it probably won't this year, you can buy with credit a CCU from something like a Starfarer Gemini to the Endeavour base for $10. Leave that in your hangar, and then in 2 or 3 years' time, when the ship actually comes out, we know more about it. You can just apply that to another ship to CCU up to it at today's price of $350. That's how I kind of rationalize it. Keeping an option to buy, and if you don't want the Endeavour, you just melt it later and get your $10 back.
And it doesn't take much for that that $10 CCU you buy to show its benefit, because I mean, even talking about the BMM, Starlette, you were able to secure me a Starfarer Gemini to BMM CCU that essentially locked in a $350 BMM for me. We already know the BMMs now. What is it, 5 or 550 now? And it's going to go up again. I don't care what anyone says. That ship's going to $1,000.
Yeah, it's going
so the
up.
BMM is strange because it's become an amazing end ship to have. So you probably don't want to use that as part of a chain. But even the Endeavour, I mean, if that goes up to $600 or $700, even if you don't want an Endeavour, that's a link in your CSU chain that you could use to get up to that price or hull value at a discounted cost. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, and there's
the other side of
go ahead, Starlette.
The other side is the master set. So the master set is quite interesting because you can buy it with credit and it has LTI. So if you happen to have credit on your account that you can use, buy a master set with credit and then melt it into your buybacks. You have to wait 24 hours between the time you buy it and between the time you melt it. But leave it in your buybacks, because eventually the master set will go up in price. So again, keeping options for later is probably the wisest choice for this particular ship.
And for those that don't know, purchasing a CCU, and again, for some of us Star Citizen vets here, this seems like 101 information, but for all the new people coming into Star Citizen, remember, there's a lot of new people coming into the game. They don't really realize this. When you buy that CCU, there's not a lot of risk there, because you can always melt that CCU for credit. And then you can use that credit for something else if you just decided at some point that, hey, I'm never going to use a CCU. I don't like that ship no more, or that path anymore, or whatever. Am I right in that thinking, Starlette, that the CCUs can be melted?
Yeah, especially if you buy the CCU for credit, then you've lost absolutely nothing. Yeah. If you bought it for war bond and then you melt it, you've now got credit to use, not war bond. So there's a bit of a negative there's a bit of a bonus of having real cash. You get a discount, and you can buy things that have perhaps LTI or perhaps they have an additional discount associated with them. But
and I do agree with you, Quinn. My recommendation would not to be to melt a CCU flippantly, especially because it could really save you money, and they could always bump that price up.
Absolutely.
But what I'm trying to illustrate there is that there's not sometimes when you buy something like a CCU, there's that feeling like, well, it's like, well, I'm going to buy this $25 CCU, but it isn't really anything. It's not a ship. It's a path to a ship. And it can be a ship if I apply it, which overwrites another ship. So sometimes there's a little bit of feeling that, like, what is it? It's essentially, the way I look at a CCU is it's your reserve. You're locking in a reserve price essentially, and the risk there is minimal because you can always melt it. Yes, you could be losing future savings on a ship, but you're not necessarily losing the money you put in. That initial money you put in. If you buy a $25 CCU, you'll melt it for $25 credit.
Yep.
Cool. That's pretty much it on the Endeavour discussion. Really hope everyone enjoyed this talk. This is the first time on Starjump Station we've done a kind of a dissection on a particular ship. I want to do more of these in the future. You can plan on these, plan on having these sort of deep dives on ships that either have enough to discuss and deep dive about it, or ships maybe that are just really popular or something. So you expect these. I'm sure during IAE we'll do some coverage on whatever ships are announced there. I do love Star Citizen spaceships, so you can expect us to do that right along with our normal game systems discussions, theory crafting, general Star Citizen discussions.
They're pretty crazy about spaceships too.
Yeah. Um, Before we end the episode, though, a few more things we want to go over. Starjump is involved in some charity stuff. I want to hand it over to Ender to talk about some of those initiatives and something that we're pretty passionate about and we know our community is. So, Ender, you want to talk about that stuff?
Absolutely. So Grim and I have been doing. I guess I started, and then Grim joined. He was very busy when we started doing this, but Grim and I have been doing some charity work for about 3 years now. It started out as a weekend D&D game, and kind of grown from there. But we've been doing it for a while, and I recently asked about 6 months ago, I guess, if we could start kind of building that into the Starjump because it was under a different name at the time.
Yep.
Grim was super happy to have that become part of Starjump, and kind of an arm of Starjump. So we are doing something pretty much every weekend, and we will be doing events in the near future. But we currently don't have a name. And if you go to our Discord, which you will find here,
Posting. Yep, there's a link. Go join our Discord, please. We're in there every day.
Yes, please. If you go to our Discord, you will see a charity name suggestion section. We are looking for suggestions. We are going through a lot of information.
Real
But
quick,
I
Ender,
did
sorry
want
to
to
interrupt you.
go ahead.
STL Youngblood, see you there in the chat. Thank you so much for stopping by. Big fan of your content.
What's up, young blood?
Glad you could stop by and join us here for a little bit. We just got done talking about the Endeavor at length. This video, everyone, will also be on YouTube later tonight. So continue, Ender.
Not a problem. So we typically raise money for a multitude of things. We do cancer research because I don't think I know anybody who hasn't either been directly touched by cancer or had somebody in their direct family touched by cancer, or family or friends, I should say. We do fundraisers for children's hospitalizations due to cancer and a multitude of other things that affect children. We also do raise money for veterans and current military. So if any of those are anything that you're passionate about, you can, for now, hop over to my channel.
There
I've
it
got to
is.
remember how to do it. Thank you, Graham.
Go give Ender a
And
follow.
give me a follow. Every Saturday we do a D&D game, but I also stream and always have a charity link up. And we will murder. I am also a veteran, and I had bladder cancer, so I know the struggle for all of it. We do stream Saturdays. It starts at about 5:30, but I go pretty well into the night, and pretty soon I will have a new schedule. And I always have something charity related up on my stream, so you can always donate to it. If you don't like Dungeons and Dragons, I understand. So you don't have to just watch for D&D, but we are always there.
We're going to do some marathons where we play multiple games
Yes.
for charity too. That's upcoming. Will be announced soon.
So yeah, I just wanted to thank the community who has been coming to all of these and helping out so far, because you guys are and have been amazing, and open up the doors for everyone else. It's been something that I've been fairly quiet about, only because it's still kind of been figuring things out. But I kind of wanted to open the doors to it and let everybody kind of join in and help out if they can.
And Mud Dog just says he's been a D&D guy for 30 years. That's something Ender has talked about at point 2, is maybe doing some sort of Starjump D&D sort of thing at some point. So
Absolutely.
very cool. Thank you, Ender. Definitely this charity stuff is something we care a lot about. And it kind of goes into one other thing I was going to say before we close out the show for the night, is that we have a lot more Starjump stuff planned. Not only are we still doing cinematics, I am in pre-production on the RSI cinematic. A lot is going into it, as I've said before. I'll just drop one hint right now that I am deep into Titan suit modeling mode. Let's just leave it at that. We are also working on the fleet viewer that will tie in with Starlette's absolutely amazing work on Hangar.link. So definitely check Hangar Link out if you haven't already for all your CCU goodness. But we also have more Starjump shows coming, like Starjump Station. One of them is going to be sort of an after-hours show. May not be on Twitch, but it's going to be a show format where we do games. It's casual. It's going to be a lot of fun, as well as other stuff. So stay tuned for that. Again, if you haven't followed, given us a follow, please do if you like the content. As always, this video will go up on YouTube later tonight. Thank you so much for the support. We really, really appreciate it. We had a great turnout tonight. Go join our Discord. And once again, really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed this episode on the MISC Endeavor. It was an absolute monster ship to deal with. All the visuals created for it were a challenge, but all those visuals you see will be visuals that end up in the fleet viewer. And one plan me and Starlette are trying to make happen is that when you choose an Endeavor for Fleet Viewer, that maybe you'll be able to actually choose it with module selections on it, so that you can have those custom builds in your fleet pick. So stay tuned more on that. We are really pushing hard on that. I know it seems like it goes quiet. It's because John Crew and his team at CIG have unfortunately made too many damn ships, and I've got a lot to push through. But what I can tell you is I've hit about the 75% mark on ships complete, and a lot of the ones left to do are ships that are more variant related, and I really just got to change textures and hard points on. So definitely making a lot of progress. So that's going to be it. I am Grim, that is Ender, and she is Starlette. We really appreciate you joining us tonight. I'm going to play, as always, the show open on our way out. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Until next time.
It was
Thanks,
fun.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.